Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner. And you're watching episode 134 of this very original, Victoria. You've never done an opening where you haven't said your name. Episode 134 of The Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast, take 2. Because we already recorded this entire episode. And
during our winter break.
And the file just failed to save.
We recorded it when we were in Castlegar.
I didn't overwrite it. I didn't delete it. It just never saved. It never wrote to the disk in the first place. For whatever reason. So now we're back already, and now here we are recording this. What are we doing today, Victoria?
There and Back Again, part 2.
And
then the Terori side story. And also, the Pact part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, will... Oh yeah, and predictions for the Odyssey season next year.
Yeah.
I will say, right after we finished recording this episode last time, I listened to part 3 right away. So, I know how this ends.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I guess that will affect things. I haven't listened to it yet, so thank goodness for my laziness.
All my past thoughts were like, I didn't like part 2, and I thought the Terori part was boring on top of that, and I hope that part 3 is good and ties everything together.
There and Back Again, part 2, 823, written by Dave Arnold. What happens, Victoria?
In this episode, I'm trying to remember how it begins. It begins with, like, them being in the hotel and stuff, and Jay is with them, and then they go to Jay's cousin's house in the morning, and like we predicted last time, she turns out to be Jay's cousin. Plot twist. And then we find out that she is in a cult? Yeah, and like her boyfriend is one of the people who heads it, I guess?
Yeah, Kool-Aid Man Ethan.
Yeah.
He busts through a door like, oh, yeah.
And Jay's like, this guy's bad biz, so go talk to Joelle's dad. That's the first time I've ever gotten her name right, without prompting. Dad. So they do. And then he's like, save my baby. Wilson's gone for pretty much the entire episode. He's trapped in part 2.5. And yeah, it's pretty much just like the cult stuff, and they're like, obey your parents. And Jay's dad. We get Jay's dad at the end. What the episode is like, Jay, call your parents, be a good child, and Jay's like, I can't. And then Whit just does it, and Jay's dad's gonna be in the next episode. I take back all the bad stuff I said about Jay's parents. They are lovely. I mean, we don't get his mom, but, like, his dad's great, and I love his dad. He's a good parent.
So, speaking of parents and being good parents, the episode starts off, like Victoria said, in the hotel, and we get Jason is feeling all insecure about Whit being proud of his choices, and it was really sweet, if not for the leanings that it gives Jason towards going back to the NSA.
I was just like, Jay, if you cause Jason to go back to this unhealthy work relationship, I don't know. I don't think I'd be mad at Jay, because I don't think I can be mad at Jay for long.
I think you would.
I would probably be, but I wouldn't want to be.
And the Jason Jay sleepover is everything. It's adorable.
They are so good
together.
They are so good.
Lovely new tidbits of Jason's backstory, like what his first few jobs were pre-gouvernement when he was young. So that was neat. And then we find out Joelle Billingsley is Jay's cousin, and it's the lady. Shocking. So she's Billingsley, not Smose, or Hagler.
Jay is such a big family for not being in the show that long.
My guess is based on like what we know about Jay's family and inference from the episodes, is that Joelle's mother is the sister of Nick's mouse, Jay's father.
I would agree with that. That
is my guess, although there are certainly other options based on what we know about Jay's family tree. Jay is looking out. He's like, he's kind of getting drawn in, but he's also looking out for his cousin drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever she's gotten herself into.
Jay's like, I don't trust this guy, so immediately I'm on the same page as him. I remember I listened to this, and he was just like, oh, no. And he said, like, oh, it's you.
Yeah.
When Ethan came in, I was just like, who are you? What did you do to my son? Stay away from him.
And then even, like, with all this, all this talk of that stuff, then even before we meet James in person, as soon as Jay's talking about him, the shepherd instructing his sheep metaphor was absolutely not lost on me.
Which I did not pick up until you mentioned it.
Yes. In the original recording, Victoria was like...
Sorry if it feels like I don't have that much to say.
I
feel like I've already said everything, and I'm trying to remember.
I know, we recorded for almost 2 hours, so now it's hard to...
Yeah.
To try and rehash everything, and that was almost a week ago.
This one's probably going to be shorter, though.
It was exactly a week ago now.
This will be more concise.
Ideally. Because not only is he a shepherd, but he specifically talks about, like, oh yeah, he's, like, a champion at, like, shepherding sheep and instructing them in the way they should go.
Then why did your daughter leave
not
you?
Depart from them. Obvious metaphors, obvious. Finding out that Nick and Sylvia watch every episode of Jay's show, even though they don't enjoy it, just so they could get a glimpse of him, even though they don't recognize him, is really sweet.
So sweet.
Okay, Victoria. It's cult talk time already.
Oh, we have to do it again.
I know.
Oh, man.
It was like an emotional toll to go through this the first time.
Yeah.
So, the first time I listened to this episode, I was like uneasy, I was kind of squicked out about it, but I couldn't put it into... I didn't even write anything down for it. I couldn't put it into words. I'm like, I don't know if I'm being irrational. Am I reading too much into it? And then Victoria came up to me, and she's like, did you feel really weird about part 2? And I was like, thank you.
We try not to talk about episodes before we record, as many of you know, because we've discussed that before. But, like, this episode just, like, I was not feeling it at all. I cannot stress this enough. First 10 minutes are great. Like, everything up until Ethan shows up, I'm totally on board with. And then it kind of loses me right away. Because it was just, I was just so uncomfortable the entire time. Also want to say, we are not saying that Ethan's cult is good.
See, so let's get into it. Ethan's cult, based on part 2, pretty obviously a bad thing going on here. Pretty obvious Joel's father does love her and is doing what is right to the best of his ability. But I really feel like, from a lesson for the kids perspective, that this has been set up as a very strawmannish kind of situation, which, for those who aren't familiar with argumentative fallacies, means that it's a situation that has been set up to prove a point, but the person who's setting it up, who wants to debunk it, is setting it up in a way that purposefully adds in weak points to make it easy to debunk where it would not normally be in all cases, so that they can erroneously prove their point. So, yes, I think Ethan is bad, and I think James is good. However, based on most of the evidence that we are given, basically all of which is subjective, I should add, based on like the perspectives we get it from, that based on most of the evidence, and you take that situation in general that we get from most of that, it could just as equally be that Ethan is actually the good guy here and James is the bad guy. And in this case, it does seem specifically Ethan is the bad guy, but that's not necessarily the case from most of what we get here. I feel like there's a lot of double standards going on in the way that things are treated. Like, Victoria pointed out that they act really weird about, like, wow, like, she took all of her stuff and she, like, buried it to get rid of it to deny herself.
I mean, like, it is kind of weird, but Timmy did the same thing in Malachi's message.
And he was like, look at it. She marked her hand as, like, a physical sign of devotion to them.
And I sent Devin the clip from Fight Club when that happened. That's, like, when some of the things that Ethan said, I was just like, okay, I've heard, like, way worse things about that. From people who, like, aren't in cults. This does not mean he's in a cult. And then...
the thing is...
They said, like... And then they started talking about the hands marking up and other stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, never mind.
Which that's maybe weird. Is very well could be a reference to Fight Club, but my first thought when I heard that was I was like, I mean, some kind of, like, physical mark of cutting yourself to show devotion to what group you're... I'm like, it's what God told the Israelites to do. Circumcision.
That's different, though.
I mean, circumcision is a lot more extreme than cutting the back of your hand.
I'm not completely on page with...
I'm not saying... But here's the thing. I'm not saying the cult is a good thing, but I'm saying that most of the points that they give, they're like, oh, see, this is what's really bad. I'm like, yeah, but if you look... It's like a Drake the Cosmic Copper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I feel like there's kind of a double standard going on here. But the important point of this is that when looking at abusive situations, and more importantly, when looking at how children interpret whether or not they are in an abusive situation, they are in a point where they are much more likely to be swayed towards, oh, I should just trust, yeah, this is normal, trying to normalize the situation I'm in. I guess this is how life is, and I should just, I guess this is fine because this is all I've known, as opposed to being like, oh no, I should tell someone and seek help. And so when you present this situation that's in this episode, where it's kind of ambiguous, looking at the general descriptions of the way they set up this scenario, it's pretty ambiguous whether or not, the Joelle in this situation could have either been in a loving family with her father, and then Ethan snatches her away and does bad things, or whether or not she is in a situation that's actually abusive, regardless of whether or not her father has good intentions and calls himself a Christian, because we all know that doesn't actually have bearing over whether or not he's being abusive or even knows that he's being abusive. That children are very likely to side with their parents rather than be like, oh, I should go tell a teacher about this, or I should go tell the police, let alone, the idea that someone is actually going to believe them, because a lot of times people don't. And so the idea that they set up this situation where a kid listening to this episode who could be in a bad situation with their family, and this episode basically says, if you are in a situation where, you really feel like your family isn't great and you don't like it, and they just seem like, like Chris said, like fallen creatures, and it's not good, and they're not emotionally supporting you, and you just feel hurt by them, and things like that, and which, kids could take, interpret, and extrapolate into being emotional abuse and even physical abuse, that you should still obey your parents and listen to them, and that going away and trying to find other people or trying to get away from a bad situation is not the correct thing to do. And that's wrong. You need to tell someone if that's the case. I just feel like this episode really assumes that the parent is always correct. There's little lines of like, oh, well, your father wasn't abusive, right? Okay, good. But they're dwarfed and drowned out in this episode in comparison to the message of obey your parents no matter what, always, which is dangerous. I mean, even the Bible, it's honor your parents, respect your parents. It's not obey your parents that you have a long life on the earth. And in the wrap-up, Chris is like, remember, our parents are fallen creatures. I was like, yes, that's true. She's like, and that means that sometimes it's hard to obey them. I was like, no, that means sometimes it's wrong to obey them. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's wrong because they're not God, and we can't treat them like they're God. They're not infallible. If your mother tells you to go take a gun and shoot someone and then rob that bank, that's not hard to obey your parents. That's wrong. And I feel like the message needs to be instilled in kids more like, yes, your parents do have more experience than you. And hopefully they do want what's best for you. That is a good thing. And, the show has acknowledged at times, like with Kurt Stevens and with Kelly Washington, that sometimes that's not the case. So yeah, the show always makes these assumptions that parents are good and they have the best intentions, and I really hope that they do, but sometimes they don't. And I feel like the benefit of the doubt needs to go towards the vulnerable people in any relationship, not the people who already have the power. And the children are the ones who are vulnerable in this situation. Oh, I remember.
Okay.
Kids have discernment. This show has always tried to build itself on a principle that we do not talk down to children, but that we treat them with respect. And like I was saying, yes, parents do have experience, and hopefully they have good intentions, which means that kids should mostly be able to trust them. But we also have to understand that kids have a pretty good intuition about a lot of things. And so I feel like we need to give kids a little more credit in terms of their own intuition and prayerful searching about what kind of situation they're in, and not be trying to it's better to err on the side of, oh, we should tell more people about, keep other people informed of what's going on in our lives, so if red flags pop up, there's someone there to help, rather than err on the side of, oh, always trust our parents and do everything that they say unquestioningly, and don't even leave a gap for anything, any way out for anything bad that could happen. It concerns me because I feel like obviously every situation is different, but I feel like if you're going to err on one side, you have to err on the side of the vulnerable people, not the side of the people with power. And I feel concerned about kids who could be in bad situations, because this episode assumes as long as James claims to be a Christian, because we all know there's a big difference between a third of the population of the planet self-identifies as Christian. Obviously not all of those people are Christian. As long as you say, yes, I'm a Christian, and you say that you have good intentions, then surely you can't be doing anything bad to your kid. And that's not the case. And Whit scoffs at the idea of found family, and the idea that of referring to family as anyone other than your biological parents, which on the one hand, on just the straight up, the most explicit way, which is talking about adoption, is ridiculous, because the show has such a good respect and a long history of talking about and encouraging adoption. And so when Whit makes this scoffing remark about what do you mean your father who isn't your biological father, the way he says it is so shocked that she could refer to someone as her father who isn't her biological father. And it's extra weird because as she's talking about oh, my real family, my found family, he seems shocked and confused by this concept, when that's the definition of the church, is us referring to each other as the family of God, as brothers and sisters in Christ. And the fact that Whit scoffs at that idea inherently, even before she explains what she means by it, is bizarre to me.
Characters, it's Whit.
It's Whit, exactly.
He's the one who's Connie is my daughter and Eugene's my son.
Whit's the foundest father in any piece of media I've ever watched before.
He actually plays a founding father in an episode.
Yeah, he's Ben Franklin. So I felt really weird about it. I do think specifically in this situation, it does appear, all signs indicate, especially with Jay's intuition and stuff, Joelle clearly feels kind of scared or intimidated by Ethan. It's clearly bad, but just going off of a lot of the main points, the things that I'm worried that kids are going to pick up, not on every point. They're not going to know every single point and be oh, well, my situation is only 90% similar to this, so I shouldn't follow through on the same things and I should, assess this differently. No, they're going to say, most of what I'm seeing here is similar to me, which means if Joelle's father is fine, even though she doesn't like him, and that this seems like a bad thing, she should just trust in him even when it feels like she's being hurt by him, then that's what I should do too. And that's just, it feels like it's throwing caution to the wind for the sake of storytelling over the sake of what kids are actually going to get out of it. Kids who are at risk, and those are the ones we need to be concerned with. Because if we put the emphasis on protecting the kids and cast dispersion on the parents, the worst thing that's going to happen is that kids who are in good situations are going to be doubtful of their parents, and then they sit down and they have a good conversation about it. that's a lot better than kids who are in bad situations who put too much trust in their parents and then up scarred for the rest of their life or worse.
I was thinking about like the found family thing earlier today to go back to that point. I was thinking like I've seen lots of shows, movies, and like read books and stuff where there's a big emphasis on found family or like biological relations.
Which is a lot of stories. I feel like that's becoming an increasingly big
and like
theme
the power
in media
of friendship
these days.
and stuff, which is like basically almost every story.
Yeah.
And like if a story has the moral when it comes to family that like only your biological family's family, I'm like, no, that's unless you don't have any friends, or all your friends are abusive or mean to you, or you just can't connect to them.
Then get new friends.
Then get new friends or something. And then if the moral is like only your friends and like found family are your true family, it's one of those things where it's just like if your family is abusive or something like that and you can't connect with them, then I would say, yeah, go for it. But I think like generally speaking, if there aren't like any issues of abuse or anything like that, the moral people should go with, and when we see a lot, is like both are good and both like can mix, and it's not like we have to segregate the two groups. Both of them are good, so don't cast shade on one of them unless there's something actually like wrong with it.
I feel like part of the vagueness and the ambiguity in the way they set up the situation too that contributed to like the straw man of it is when they're talking about like, oh, why is Joelle upset with her dad? It was very, very vague about what they meant by like not supporting me, because you could take that a lot of different ways, because obviously if by support, would they imply that by that in this episode, they imply it means, oh, he isn't enabling me to do whatever I want at any given moment to give me, like, you know, momentary pleasure or whatever's most, you know, whatever's going to make me the happiest in this fleeting moment. And obviously, no, a parent shouldn't just give you, like, whatever you want all the time, whatever it is. However, if your parent isn't supporting you in the way that, like, they're constantly, like, tearing you down and criticizing you non-constructively.
When I first heard it, I heard, like, he's not supporting me, and I was thinking, like, those things.
Exactly.
And I was thinking, like, why are they casting this in a bad light? And that's when I started, like, really, the episode started really losing.
Exactly, yeah, because you could, clearly, they come around to be like, oh, when she says he doesn't support me, they basically mean he doesn't let me do whatever I want to do. But the way that it comes off to me is the implication like, oh, he's dragging me down all the time. He's criticizing me and insulting me like a Mother Gothel, kind of like,
abusive.
Exactly, like an emotionally abusive, trying to like keep you in and lock you down and like push you down, gaslighting kind of thing. And after the fact, it's like, oh no, it doesn't appear that that's what James was doing. But it's that kind of thing where I agree, if a parent doesn't let you do whatever you want to do anytime, it's probably a good parent. However, kids who are in bad, emotionally abusive, gaslighting situations are going to listen to that same conversation, and they're going to hear my parent doesn't support me as being descriptive of what they're in, which is more reasonable than the way they used it in the episode. And they're going to think, oh, AIO is telling me that my parent's fine and that this is a good situation, I'm fine here. And I've read before online years ago, like accounts of people who are in bad family situations, and that things like AIO, that they'd listen to it and they were like, oh, I'm in a bad place. And then they listen to episodes and it's like, no, trust your parents. They know what they're doing, even when it doesn't seem like it. And they stayed stuck in these bad family situations because things like AIO specifically encouraged them that like, oh no, this is fine. And it's stuff like that, like real world examples where this has actually happened is why I'm like, there needs to be a lot more caution and forethought into the way that messages like this are presented.
And we're not saying, like, don't listen to your parents or anything like that.
We're saying have discernment. Because remember, your parents aren't God. God is God, and listen to him. It's just like the Romans 13 is also like listen to the governing authorities, and yet we also have to do that with discernment, because we're not saying like
that's what subject yourself is all
that's
about.
Exactly. It's not like authority is like God, it's not like God and your parents and your teachers and the government and all this stuff. It's like here's God, and here's all these people underneath them, and as we follow this flow tree through, we always have to look immediately first off every time, is this something that is good that God would want me to do before we're looking at these other things, because he is like the filtering factor over all of this stuff, and we can't. I feel like the way that they presented the verses in this tries to make it sound, even though I know that's not the intention, that you obey your parents regardless of whether it's good or scriptural, without any kind of like discernment, spiritual discernment over that.
I think we both agree that this episode could have been written a little bit more carefully in some places. I think Subject Yourself did a lot better job at this moral, because with that one, the lesson was, so there were two sides to that coin. One was Maureen, is that Lawrence's mom's name? She had an issue with the people who were doing like the textbook choices in her school because of what was inside the textbooks and stuff. And so then she like discussed that with them, and then they hashed that out and stuff, because there was important information that was not being presented to people. And then the other side, Lawrence is trying to do something that's actually harmful to him, and then Maureen doesn't let him, and then he says something like, oh, why can like you question your governing authority, but I can't? And she said like, she said, because what you're trying to do is actually like really bad for you, and it might seem like it's like a good job now, but if you just wait, maybe we can like discuss this and find like a common ground, because he wanted to like paint his own braces
with car model paint.
Yeah, with car model paint, and he like had to go to the hospital because he did it himself. And she said like, just wait a little bit, we'll talk about this, because you might hurt yourself if you don't like think this through. And she was completely right in that situation.
And the important thing here is Maureen's part of the story, which is that, you know, even when there's governing authority over you, you still have rights and discernment to question and appeal those decisions with your own discretion and spiritual discretion.
Because the people there were her work parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's part 2.
Is there anything else? I think that's
so
everything.
Next time, you can remember what you did. We're going to say about next time. I think you were just, being optimistic about the way this is going to resolve.
Yeah, I kept on saying last time constantly that I really hope that part 3 resolves everything in a way that, like, this might sound bad, brings out the worst in Ethan and, like, shows more negativity with, like, the cult members, because I feel like there wasn't enough of that. Also, like, explains everything a lot more than we got before. I kind of looked at this a little bit like The Cure, in that I really liked part 1. Part 2, I wasn't really sold on. But for The Cure, part 3, like, tied everything really, really, really nicely together. And I'm hoping that happens with this one. Also, same thing applies with the 2.5 thing. Because that just kind of, it comes out of left field, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into part 2.5.
Yeah.
So, episode 2.5, it's kind of weird. It was like, it's going to be a bonus episode.
The first half of Legacy Part 2 is how Devin worded it.
Well, just basically all of Legacy Part 2.
Yeah.
First half is in, like, everything but the last 5 minutes.
It's the first 20 minutes of Legacy Part 2.
So, yeah, this extra part of There and Back Again, we've known was coming for most of the year. I mean, I don't mean we as in everyone. I mean, us specifically had, but we haven't talked about it because I didn't think that was something that we were allowed to tell you guys.
If anyone hasn't listened to it yet, the way it happens, because I accidentally listened to part 2 3 times because I didn't understand, because I'm dumb. I thought it was gonna be
interspersed extra content.
So, like, they cut between the two different things. But it's actually just, like, glued to the end. Like, you actually get Chris's wrap-up for part 2. And then you get, I think, Dave Arnold introduced.
No, it's Bob Smith. It's Bob.
Bob? Okay, yeah. You get Bob introducing this one. And basically, like, if I took a cleaver and I cut it in half, they would sound like completely different episodes.
Well, they are. They just appended it to the audio file.
It said, like, in the promotional thing for it in part 1 before this part came out. Because this part came out halfway through the month.
Yep.
It said, like, listen to the bonus part and you'll find out about the answers to the mystery of Terrore. And so I thought this was going to be, like, this sweet, like, and by that I mean cool, but also maybe, like, emotionally nice, Lassie type deal, where it's, like, little Joelle and her dad and their dog, and it's, like, explaining her childhood and, like, how she got to where she got in part 2, and that's why I thought it was going to be intercut, and I was thinking, like, this is something we really need after part 2, because maybe it will show her dad actually, like, being abusive, or how she was the person who was, like, completely wrong in every way, and like, show her in a new light that we hadn't seen from part 2 yet. But, like, nope, it just does something, like, basically completely unrelated. It gives us New Zealand lore when it comes to Christianity. So I'll let Devin...
Yeah, so it's interesting because before I listened to part 2, Victoria was like, oh, they're going to put the bonus episode out, and it's going to explain, like, this big mystery of something that, like, they should have explained in the second part, but they didn't really, and this is going to fill in all of that stuff. And so listening to part 2 the first time, I was trying to figure out what that was going to be, and I got to the end, and I was like, I don't feel like there was any big question mark mystery, because to me, I felt like I mostly understood, just from the episode, the meaning of the Terrore thing. To me, the way I interpreted it, listening to part 2 the first time, is this is a piece of embroidery that Joelle had as a child that has the name of her dog on it, and the significance to the fact that she still has it is, like, when her dad hears that she still has it, he's like, oh, she still has it, with, like, this hopeful tone in his voice, and I assume the meaning is he assumed that Joelle had, like, completely given herself over to Ethan, and she'd gotten rid of all her stuff and buried it, but the fact that she still had this thing that he recognized, which means it's a thing from before, is a thing that she did not bury with the rest of her stuff, and that it represented this little bit that she was like, oh yeah, Ethan, I'll join your call, I'll bury my stuff, but there was this little piece of her past, her dog and her family, that she was still holding on, she was still protecting, and that she was specifically hiding from Ethan, which means that she still has this doubt, this holding on to her past life that she doesn't want Ethan to know about. And so to me, that felt like all the explanation that I needed. And then it turns out maybe it's all the explanation we're going to get, because the part had nothing to do with her dog.
I thought that, like, she did bury it, but then she was, like, sleepwalking and then sleep digging, and took it out of where all her stuff was.
I don't know if... I'm guessing the way that Joelle ended up in the road was, like, hypnosis or some sort of, like, meditative, like, hypnotic state, something like that.
I have, like, no idea why that happened at all.
Is that the perspective of, like, I haven't heard episode 3 Victoria, or real Victoria?
What do you want the answer to be?
The former?
Then it's the former.
Okay.
Wait, what was...
That it gets explained in part 3, but you're just pretending that you haven't heard it yet?
You'll never know.
Well, I will once I hear part 3.
You will.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about her being in the road for, like, a little bit there. Like,
so, yeah,
now,
yeah, I'm trying to remember what's the stuff we have to talk about, because we lost our first recording, so I have to remember what we haven't talked about yet.
I said that I thought this part was boring, which is why I made you summarize it, which you still haven't done.
Well, yeah, because I wanted to talk about the Joelle thing, because we didn't talk about that.
So, this part is about this girl named Terrore, and missionaries visited New Zealand, and she got a Bible, and she put it around her neck, and then she got murdered, and then her killer, like, read the Bible, and then he became a missionary, and he, like, became buds with her dad.
And then everyone else also read it, and then all of them became Christian.
And they have, like, Torori Bibles and stuff, and Winston gets...
Yep, Winston.
Yeah, Willie.
I love Overwatch. Yeah.
Wilson gets one of the Bibles given to him.
Yeah, it's all the stories being told to him by his friend.
And his friend...
His Kiwi pastor friend.
His Kiwi friend, who he likes to debate with, is like, take this Bible, I think you'll need it. And he's like...
Because we will have a battle of the sword of the spirit.
Take it, I'm gonna throw more at you.
Yeah, he doesn't want to duel an unarmed... He doesn't want to duel an unarmed opponent.
Use the shield of God to protect yourself. He's just hucking Bibles at him.
Yeah, Wilson's flying off the waterfall. So, yeah, like we said, it's weird because it came out in the same month, halfway through the month. They're calling it Part 2.5 on the wiki. It has its completely own separate episode number, though, as in, like, this is episode 824. Yeah.
Fun fact. They knew you weren't going to like Part 2, so they're
like,
let's make him really mad.
So it's just a weird way to set it up, but also I'm like, I don't know what way they could have done it that what I would find... Is that how
you spell Terrore?
I don't know. Totally satisfactory.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, it's weird. I can understand why they didn't want to make this just like a 4-parter, given the format, because if it was just in there as a part among 4, the format transition, like you said, would be just as jarring as Part 2 of Legacy. I was really glad, though. Like, the content in the episode, I liked it. I was glad we got to learn.
I wish it was set as its own track. I don't like that it's like...
That is weird. I do wish it was its own...
40-minute thing, and the first half isn't even it.
I do wish it was its own audio file, which I can do. I've decided not to, just because that's the original format it's in, but... the only ones where I've split it apart, the audio files, is the old versions of the split episodes, where they put this 2 split episodes, and I put them on separate tracks, just because...
Yeah, but these are 2 different episodes.
Blended together in the non-chronological order to how they aired, and I split those apart just so that we could listen to the episodes in chronological airing order. No, they're not different chronological episodes. They are consecutive to each other. I'm talking about split episodes that aired like 5 episodes apart from each other, and then they put them on the same track in album 34. Anyways, so I'm really glad that we got to learn a little more about the Maori history of the island, since it was mentioned earlier. I assume that the meaning of Torore then isn't really going to come up very much in Part 3, so it was just this whole thing solely to lead into doing this side episode, which is like almost completely unrelated, except for like the fact that they take place in the same country, and so they just kind of squashed it together, because they're like, we want to tell There and Back Again, we want to tell the story of Torore. It'll feel weird if we do 2 episodes in New Zealand close together, so we might as well kind of tie them in together, but if we make its own part, it's going to feel weird, so we'll just kind of, like, weirdly insert it in there. We have to make it seem
like we're teaching people things,
not just we'll just weirdly jam this square peg in a round hole kind of thing. Chris mentioned in the wrap-up of Part 2.5 that it would be mentioned again in Part 3, but it still seems like an odd way to do things, so I don't know.
They're like driving down a street, and they're like, look, that street name's Torore, and Jason's like, oh, cool, and they keep on driving, and that's like the last mention of it.
And the web documentary, half of it is touring through Hobbiton, talking about Lord of the Rings.
That's so weird to me.
And half of it is the crew having an overnight stay at a Maori Marae, which is like a cultural exchange camp festival thing that the Maori have.
Is it like, for Lord of the Rings though, is it like the movies, or...
It's more the books, but it's a little bit of both.
Okay. I already knew that, I was just saying.
Yeah. I was wondering if you were gonna... You have to follow the script, Victoria.
I don't want to.
So the crew stays overnight at the marae, and they get to immerse themselves in the Maori culture and traditions for 2 days.
Did they get to dance?
Yes.
Nice.
And the web quest also goes into more detail about Maori culture, which I've really enjoyed getting more of this time around. As I mentioned, especially because we're hearing a lot more about it right now, given the recent huge surge of popularity of Taika Waititi, director of Thor Ragnarok, and of course of the fabulous What We Do in the Shadows.
I love him so much. He's like my favorite director.
Who is Maori and likes to, spread information about his heritage and inject, the symbology of that and the history of that into the work that he does. So.
Plus his accent's really cool, and he is hilarious. Go watch What We Do in the Shadows, and go watch Thor Ragnarok. They're both so good.
So yeah, I'm hopeful about part 3. I'm hoping that we find out more actual concrete facts about what is going down at Ethan's Kool-Aid Palace, so that we can actually not just make a definitive, like, yes, he's bad, because obviously he's supposed to be bad, but also in a way that can distinctively set apart for kids, like, oh, this is why we know that this is bad. This is how we differentiate between the scenarios.
Because he has a goatee, Devin.
Oh,
and a mustache.
But it's an audio format, so it's hard.
Plus, they forgot to mention that he has a goatee and a mustache.
Exactly. How will kids know, Victoria, unless they watch our podcast?
They won't, Devin.
Only we know Ethan's canon appearance, even though Jay actually does physically describe him.
I don't remember that.
He has like brown hair and blue eyes, and he's all muscly.
Yeah, but he didn't say anything about this.
It's true.
Fun fact, he looks like old 1920s drawings of the devil. Like the Disney did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the ratings for this will come next time, and so we'll stop that there, and then that is what we'll talk about for now.
Next up,
I have high aspirations for part 3.
I'm putting those high expectations on part 3. Wait, we can just keep on doing part 2.
We can. I just want to check after last time.
Okay, that's fair.
So
we
stop
better
this.
not lose this. I don't want to do it a third time.
We'll just stop the podcast.
We'll never release part 2.
No, we'll just end the Oddcast if this is going.
We'll do, yeah.
So hopefully, we'll see you at part 2 to talk about the Pact.
Devin just found out I'm not mad at him for the recording being missing, even though he's thought I have.
Which is good.
I can't talk. I have been for like the past week.
And Victoria's superior memory has confirmed that in fact it was 100% my fault that we lost the original recording.
It's fine. I keep on looking at your picture, and this blanket looks like a robe, and I keep on thinking you look a lot like Ferris Bueller. It looks kind of like a shirt.
Oh, no.
You become what you hate most.
Oh. No, I think it kind of looks like a shirt. I was thinking it looks like a robe, but then I reach up and it's like all drapey and dramatic. Yeah. I need to block the lamp reflecting off the Rooster Teeth poster.
It's so bright, and it's just that one spot.
The angles are bad. Such a good poster, though.
Lean your head in.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Stay like this forever.
So, the Pact, episode 512, the Pact Part 2, written by Nathan Hubler. What happens in the second part, Victoria?
So, everything is wonderful and sad and emotional. And why wasn't Mandy at the end?
Why?
Why wasn't Mandy
There's
at
no
the
reason.
End? She should have been at the end. She
was robbed of that.
Every single time Lucy got a mystery, she was also always able to be at the end. She couldn't be at the end, though,
And I never really thought about how upset I should be about it until we reviewed the first part.
Yeah, I mean, it's always bothered me, honestly.
Yeah, I was always I just never really thought too much about it before, though, but it's really weird. Okay, what happens in this
What you were saying before is, in the last recording, is it's Mandy's mystery.
Yes.
Because, none of this would have happened.
Exactly, it's the first line in this episode is Mandy. Mandy is the first one who notices what's happening to Agnes.
First episode,
before Tom, before Whit, before Dr. Jennings. This is Mandy's investigation that she pulls everyone else into. And the fact that at the end of it all, she doesn't get to be there for the resolution, and they're like, oh, guess we'll have to tell Mandy later. That
is nonsense.
From a recording perspective, I can't imagine any reason she wouldn't have been able to be there, because they should have filmed this all in one recording, and there's no reason Aria would have had to leave early or whatever. She should have been present for all this. And from a writing perspective, it makes no sense. I can't think of any reason why she couldn't have been there, because she was like, oh, my mom says I have to be home for dinner, but they could have just as easily, very reasonably written oh, yeah, I told my mom what's going on. She said I can be an hour late or whatever, because that would be a totally reasonable thing for Rachel to do. There's no thing about the reveal of the narrative that would be impacted negatively by Mandy's presence there. It's not like they would have got there and Joanne would have been like, hey Mandy, I never noticed, but you look like me when I was young, and she would have said that too early. That wouldn't have happened because Joanne's already known Mandy for years, and that's never happened before. It wouldn't have happened now. And everyone else there has already been spending all this time with Mandy. I don't see any way that there would have been a negative impact on the way they unfolded the story at the lake.
I don't know about you, but if I was Mandy, I'd be like, nah, some stuff's going down. I need to be there.
Yeah, honestly, you have to be home for dinner. I'm like, I will eat dinner when I get home. I'm going to a different state.
Even if, honestly, I know this might sound bad, but like, even if my parents were like, you need to come home now, I'd be like, but the mystery! And then,
yeah.
and then get in trouble later, because I'd be like, I need to know what's gonna happen.
Riding on the coattails of obeying your parents. What happens in this episode?
That's me obeying my parents. I already kind of talked about it a little bit. So in this episode, it cuts between Agnes, who is hitchhiking with this lady, to where she's gonna meet up with Joe, and like her telling her past to the lady, and she's like completely coherent during the entire thing, and it's like so wonderful to hear, especially after Novacom. We're gonna talk about this a little bit more later. Disclaimer: nothing wrong with Agnes.
Just finish the thing, and then we'll talk about it.
Fine. So it cuts between flashbacks delivered by Agnes and flashbacks through the journals that Tom and Mandy and Whit are looking at. And then they all meet at the end on the beach, and we find out that Joe is Joanne, and they have a beautiful reunion. And then the last scene in the episode is the best scene, because it's Hillingdale, and Agnes, and Joanne's visiting her, and she's like, I'll be here next week to visit you again. And then she's like, I love you, Joe, I love you, Rose. And I'm like crying because it's so beautiful, and I love it. And Mandy can't be there because she's at dinner.
It was probably Thai food anyways. Imagine how upset Mandy would have been. She goes home, and then it turns out it was Thai food.
Is that like a worst day ever thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking, like, or is that just, like, some weird prejudice you randomly have against that type of food?
No, I like Thai food.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
No, Mandy hates Thai food. As you correctly remember, the worst day ever. Because your mom thought she was going to be at Disney on Ice. I love hearing Agnes tell her story to the lady who picked her up because, like you said, her memory of it is so clear, and she loves these memories.
It's right after Novacom.
She's so happy telling them, and it's so nice to hear her be able to lucidly communicate these happy times, these good memories. Agnes is such a good character. She deserves so much more screen time. As you said, we both had the same thought, but we also had this same, like, kind of worry, like, I was like, I need to be careful how I word it, because I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I love Agnes the most when we don't have to deal with her mental illness. Like, oh, it's an inconvenience that I'm happiest when we can ignore.
We love Agnes all the time.
Exactly.
She is beautiful
it's just
and
nice.
pure.
It's nice to see her in recovery. It's nice to see her when she doesn't have to struggle against it. And when
she's, like, so happy and relaxed when she's just, like, thinking about everything.
Yes.
And she's, like, not overcome with sadness when she's talking about Wilbur dying or Timmy, and it's like, it's really nice.
It's nice to see her flourishing instead of languishing, which is the state that she is in a significant portion of the time that we see her as a character, especially since the first time we see her after Novacom, like you said.
This is like the only scene I think we get of her
like really lucid,
being this lucid
from like AIOO. Album 3. Obviously.
Yeah, album 3 doesn't count because we don't actually know if, like, I don't think that was before she was at Hellingdale.
Yeah, it was.
That was before she was at Hellingdale.
We know from the timelines given in episodes that because this episode has so many dates, so many years. It's beautiful.
This is like Tom's lore source.
Tom's stuff in Greatest Love also gives a bunch of years and stuff, which gives us enough to know that it was actually around album 18 when Agnes originally went to Hillingdale. It was roughly around there.
Trying to think if Tom had any big episodes.
It was a little bit before he became mayor. It was around the greatest of these when we find out about what happened to Timmy and JD and all that stuff.
Oh, he reunites with JD and he loses Agnes.
It was roughly, it was like plus or minus a year or so, but it was around that time.
I wish JD was in more episodes.
So it was well after Thank You God.
I wish he was in at least one more episode. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's kind of wasted potential that he isn't.
So, yeah, these episodes are just, it's such...
Everything is perfect.
A beautiful, positive female-female friendship story, and the fact that it's also between two senior-aged ladies is just, it's so good and beautiful. And that's just, like, the rarest demographic for characters for, like, stories to focus on like this.
Like, when I get, pretty much, like, I was gonna say, like, same-gender friendships are my favorite thing, but, like, also,
non-romanticized, different sex ones, but
friendships, and then, like, but, like, different gender friendships might only be slightly more appealing to me because they're more rarely portrayed
without
as being like
romantic,
without
being
romantic and just platonic. But like this is so good, and also the fact that like we get them throughout their entire lives, and they're still like such close friends.
It's
like,
it's not
so
just
beautiful.
Like, oh, we're friends. It's like we get to see the development of these two incredible women and see them like from childhood all the way up until like late seniorship, and just see how they
feel whenever you see me and Gabe interact. Evan?
Yes, I'm just slowly building in my mind the Pact montage.
Wait, which
until
one
you're
am
all
I?
old, until you're all old and hunched over.
Which one am I? Am I Joanne or Agnes?
I don't know. Time will tell.
Oh no! What does that mean? It means
which one will tragedy befall?
I'm gonna get married, and my husband's gonna be mayor, and I'm gonna get flowers outside my window.
And you'll get an elevator. Maybe. Which one will you be?
I don't want to get an elevator.
No, you don't.
I don't like elevators.
You hate elevators.
I hate elevators.
It's just so good.
I don't want to be Joanne.
It's such a beautiful, inspirational story. Hallmark films have nothing on the Pact. TBH. I said it.
Honestly, you said, like, tragedy befalls egg. I think kind of tragedy hits
befalls
them both.
Both of them, yes.
Because, like, there are those scenes that Devin was a jerk in.
Okay, so yeah, this is a...
No.
It's too bad we lost Victoria's original emotional reaction to this.
Not again.
I'm so
not
glad.
A second
Here's
time.
The thing they could have showed us in the episode, but they didn't. And I'm really glad for this. It would have been, like, really heart-wrenching in all the best ways, but also all the worst ways. What they could have shown us, and I'm glad that they didn't, but it would have been interesting, is a montage of Joanne for the past 40 years, and each time that she shows up at Loon Lake and just stands alone on the beach for, I would assume, hours each time, just waiting and waiting, holding out hope against hope, and just waiting a little longer or a little shorter each decade before she just sadly and slowly gives up and walks back to her car, and each time she fears a little more that her best friend has died and that she wasn't there for her and wasn't with her and has no way of knowing or finding her or knowing the truth about it. And it's really sad when you think about it like that. Isn't it, Victoria? It's really sad. So it would have been interesting, but also I'm really glad they didn't show that because that would have been so depressing.
Everything about this episode is like so good. And the painting aspect, that's something we didn't talk about first recording.
Yeah, we talked about that. Well, we read the thing from the guide.
Kind of like in the thing from the guide.
Yeah.
But like the painting aspect of his story is so cool. And did you even bring the guide over?
I have it here.
The painting mystery thing?
Not with me, physically.
So you're not going to read it?
Well, I read it last time. I can read it again. Do you want me to read it again?
Well, you didn't... Oh, you read it in part 1.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think you meant part 2. I think
no,
we don't have part 2.
It would be written in the sticky note if...
Okay, that makes more sense. Anyway,
yes.
Doesn't matter. I don't really have anything else to say about this episode.
Yeah, I think that was
like
about
so
it.
Beautiful.
We talked about lots of the stuff in the first part. Yeah, it's so good and beautiful and pure. This episode is absolutely 5 out of 5 for me. This is an episode I've heard more times than almost any other in this show, because this is on the
also...
first album that we owned.
Yeah.
So the 4 discs in album 39 we listened to every night for like a couple years, like every night for multiple years before we got anything else that we were listening to. So I've probably heard these episodes 100 times.
At least.
Yeah. Like, not even exaggerating.
Anyway, I don't have anything else to say. I've already said all my final thoughts, and I'm super hungry.
It's so good. It's just this beautifully rare, inspiring, uplifting story of friendship that lasts for literally an entire lifetime and that perseveres against death and illness and tragedy and being torn across to different corners of the earth and time, which is the most destructive force of all, and that against all of those factors, that this beautiful friendship, that nothing can tear it apart even after all this time apart, and it's just so good.
Young Rose and Joe are like so sassy.
There's so
much sass.
I love them. I also
She's
love
like, that's not my name.
That the other theme of this episode, the one that they talk about more,
family. The
other theme of this episode is one that I have often talked about on this podcast as being one of my favorite themes ever, which is like the power of planting seeds and then God providing the increase regardless of whether or not we see it. That we plant all these seeds, and then all we can do is trust God and we wait for the increase, and it's up to Him to provide that. And maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. Joe planted a seed, and then she had to wait like 70 years before she saw an increase on it. But it came, and she didn't know about it. But all these impacts rippled out from it. And as I won't go into a whole rant about it because I've talked about this so many times on this podcast.
Especially
one of my favorite themes ever.
Young Wit episodes with that one guy who likes tea, the British guy.
Oh yeah. I was like
Reginald
Duffield. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought when you said Young Wit, I was like Journal of John Avery Whittaker Young. I was confused. Okay, yeah. So 5 out of 5 for me, Victoria.
5 out of 5, definitely. And next time on the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
It will happen after we talk about the last part of this episode, which is predictions.
Never mind. I thought we were going to finish in my time allotment.
No, we still have to talk about predictions for
Look how close we would have been.
2018. And we'll turn you over to that right now. Okay, so AIOC 2018 season is just about here, so let's talk about our predictions for it. All the titles are out. So we did something a little different this time, because when we talk about our predictions for like the broadcast albums, we can make fairly informed decisions because we have the episode titles and we have the album descriptions, which gives us enough to like make some guesses about what episodes are actually about by connecting them to the sentences in the album description. Especially now that albums are almost like they're only 6 episodes long, so almost every episode is described usually in the album description. However, I feel like our predictions for the AIOC are always really limp-wristed because all we have is the titles and nothing else to go on. We don't have art, we don't have a summary with any meaningful content to it, and so we're just goofing. We have no actual things. And so I was like, but if we use the sentences that are on the an AIO wiki form, that's way too spoilery. So as a compromise, I had a third party, my mother in this case, go through the descriptions that are on AI Wiki for each episode and just tell us the character names and nothing else for each episode. So we have a little bit to go off of, but we don't know what the plot is. And I'm like,
unfortunately, she didn't understand what Devin was trying to tell her, so she read several of the descriptions out completely.
No, just one of them.
Okay.
One of the one that doesn't matter, really. And
why?
I didn't tell you because it's BTB.
Oh, right.
So, here we go. Titles. So, first, 838, Rewinding the Big Picture for January. This one has Camilla, Macy, and Whit. Macy, probably referring to the Macy's Day Parade, I would assume.
I think that Macy is going to be a very Zoe-like character.
A very best friend of Camilla that has existed forever.
She's been in so many episodes, and
I think
she's
Macy,
one of my favorites, honestly.
I think once this episode comes out, Macy might actually be a main character. Like, I think this might be her 20th episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Congratulations, Macy.
Yeah, she's been in several of my favorite episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Macy makes the big cake.
Yeah, I love that one.
Macy
Yeah.
saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's favorite,
Wits Flop, actually. A
Oh,
lot of people don't realize that.
She, move over Becky Riley. She has the biggest gap of episodes.
Oh, she doesn't, because she's been in so many episodes throughout the history of the show, though, is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Common misconception.
Some people don't notice that she's like that one voice in the back in that one scene.
There's actually...
She is.
See, here's the thing. There's a lot of people... There's a lot of episodes that she's in where she doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
She's just standing there in the booth quietly.
She was actually Chris's sidekick for the Golden episodes.
I forgot about that.
And she just kind of like held Chris's hand.
Oh, and you know what?
And was with her throughout everything.
You know what that reminds me of? How you wanted to do these predictions of 5 minutes. We're already 3 minutes in and we're still ranting, riffing on the first episode.
Okay,
rewinding the big picture.
Yeah.
It's January, which means sometimes we'll get like not retrospective episodes, thank you. But like episodes themed around like New Year's and time and like the value of like time in your life and stuff, like New Year's Eve Live and all that junk.
I kind of want it to be a retrospective clip episode because we haven't got one.
I don't think that's going to be it.
But yeah. It's going to go to the charity of...
I mean, in fairness,
anime
we haven't done that in a while. Not since 500.
Like that one clip show that like shonen animes do every 5 episodes. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm looking at you, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Looking at Yu-Gi-Oh!
I'm looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I've had to watch Joey duel that one guy in like in the second arc like 50 times in Duel City, and I'm so sick of it. So stop. I understand that like that guy was cheating and Joey like got his baby brother and stuff out of the
baby brother.
But like, I don't care.
Okay, rewinding the big picture. The two key parts of this rewinding connotes like a retrospective, like looking back or reflecting on the nature of time. And the big picture kind of, in a Christian perspective gives the idea of like, oh, like we need to like see the whole thing that's happening,
I think it's going to be a lot like, Glass Darkly with Trent and the worst teacher ever.
Miss Dr. Hawthorne.
Like our least favorite episode next to A Change of Heart. I hate that episode.
What do you, I'm not, Change of Heart is not my least favorite.
A Glass Darkly might be my least favorite.
Rewinding the big picture, my best guess I can come up with is it's about looking back on things that have happened and being able to see the big picture plan, the Romans 8:28 that God has put together in
a clip show of Macy's 20 best moments. Each moment gets a minute dedicated to it.
Okay, 8:39, Failing to the Finish Line.
This one has Eugene, and that's the only name we got from it. So I like to think that Eugene plays every single character in
One
this
would
episode.
assume so, yes.
It makes me think back to...
Not Will Ryan, but Eugene.
Yeah. It makes me think back to when I was younger and I wanted to pitch an episode of Odyssey to the writers where it was everyone was sick with a cold, so no one was able to talk, and Wooten was the only one that didn't get the cold, so he had to, like, speak for everyone and communicate things between them. It would have had a lot of hand gestures, which added to a lot of comedy that would be lost on the listening audience, most likely. So you just hear a lot of Foley.
Everyone would feel like they're like hostages of Wooten. Because they'll be like, what's that, Connie? You want another ice cream skyscraper like fed to you with a spoon? Okay, sure.
I always imagine like a lot of, like that high-pitched scream that Eugene does a lot? Like that, ah! Yeah. Just like a really raspy version of that.
Oh, that sounds really painful.
10 minutes straight.
Failing to the Finish Line. I'm gonna guess sort of similar to the previous theme in that it's like, you keep, wits flop kind of thing. keep on failing, but you learn from your failures, and eventually you get to the finish line because you learn through your failures and your mess ups, and those lead to future successes and stuff.
I feel like this is going to have to do with his teaching job at the college.
That's a good guess.
And like
that would make a lot of sense.
It might build off of how he almost got a promotion before, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It might have that guy who Buck robbed in it.
Maybe.
You never know. So 480 Beyond Repair. Isn't that what I...
You said 480.
Okay, 840 Beyond Repair.
Which is a different episode.
Wilson and Alicia. So I feel like this is going to be...
album 37.
That was a typo. It's actually going to be... No, yeah, her name's Alicia. So like Alicia from Mystery of the Clock Tower, this one's going to be a sequel. So it's going to be how... Alicia's sister. It might actually be Alicia. I can't remember. No, it's Alicia.
No, it's Alicia. Alicia is from More Like Alicia, which is what I thought. I was like, oh, they're bringing back Alicia. It must be a typo then. She's going to take a trip to Trickle Lake and talk to Pastor Wilson Knox about repairing her relationship with whoever. Was it Courtney? I don't know.
No, it wasn't Courtney. It was the other one.
Was it Courtney's all of the girls in my mind in that era? I can't remember tell their voices apart.
And it's the other one. Yeah. I can't remember.
The not Courtney one.
It's the one I didn't like.
It's not Sarah.
No, it's not.
She was from before.
She's like...
Or after.
I can hear her voice in my head.
Mm-hmm. Anyways.
And, yeah. Okay, so I think it's a sequel to an epilogue. Just look it up using my computer. Anyway, I think it's... epilogue to Mystery of the Clock Tower. It's going to be about how Alicia couldn't get her sister and her sister's boyfriend to get back together, and Wilson is going to give them couples counseling and teach Alicia in the process that, like, you can't always mend those relationships. Sometimes they just gotta die. What? Julie!
Yes, it's Julie Zeke. Thank you.
I remember not liking Julie as a character. What about you?
No, she was alright. Okay, yeah, the funny thing I find about Victoria's idea, I forgot there was another Alicia in Odyssey, the Clock Tower one. It's funny because the title Beyond Repair then could also connect back to the whole Clock Tower thing.
The Clock Tower broke again and now they gotta fix it. Devin.
It's happened again.
Fun fact. So this episode starts, and they forgot to put Eugene's name in the thing.
Well, not everyone who's in the episode has to be in the description.
No, wait. So this episode starts off, it's so timely.
It's going to be a bank robbery.
It starts off with Eugene, and he gets like a call that there's some issues at the bank. And so then he has to go find like a technical person and get them to help. And then he finds out that the bank's being robbed and Alicia's there. She's the robber this time, that's the plot twist.
No.
She was like, it was a good idea, so I'm gonna try it. And Wilson, he's like old man, Mr. Wilson, like from Dennis the Menace. But when I said that, I thought of the guy from Home Alone with the shovel. So he's gonna hit Alicia on her way out and stop her.
See, my idea is similar. Instead of getting hit with a shovel, they arrest her and she's on death row. And Wilson is the pastor that they bring in for like her final confession.
It's been 10 minutes and we're on the third one.
The electric chair. 8:41.
This is the most riffing we've ever done.
It's so much worse than the first time.
Oh my gosh.
8:41. BTV idolatry.
I feel like they're getting better with the BTV episodes.
This is the third one they've done since, with like the third one without Bernard. They have been improving.
Yeah, so I think in this episode, they're going to have a lot of different stories and themes that have to do with idolatry and Bible verses. And then the non-story by Bernard of the episode will be a adaptation of And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, so they can ruin my other favorite book.
You know, as you started to say, And Then There Were None again, I thought I was like,
I made this joke the first time and Devin laughed a lot more.
When you said it just now, I was like, why did she say that again? I can't remember. And then a second later was like, oh yeah, this is a good joke. I like this one.
Oh, I remember this joke. That was funny.
See, I don't want to fake laugh because I know it's going to sound disingenuous.
I know.
But rest assured, I really did laugh at it the first time. It was very funny. I was not expecting that.
And I put a lot more build up the first time.
You did.
I gave less this time.
We're trying to hurry this time, you see.
So trying to figure it out. We're trying to hurry. That's why we're on the fourth one. It's been 12 minutes. I have class in the morning.
BTV Idolatry, they've been getting better with them. I have pretty good hopes for this.
I have pretty good expectations. I know I had a lot of problems with the last one, especially when it came to
Count of Monte Cristo.
Well, I wasn't even gonna say Count of Monte Cristo because that's a given at this point. But also, like, with the, me thinking they didn't take it far enough or do it properly.
Me thinking they didn't take it far enough. Go on.
With, when they were talking about consequences of revenge when it came to Bible stories, which was a big problem I had with that.
Forgot about that.
And I thought that was, in my opinion, that was a solid issue with the episode.
It didn't just take up that much of the episode, though.
I know, but still. And also, some parts of it were weird. I know BTV always has weird things, so that's something you can't really get around, but whatever. Next one. The big one! I forgot about this all over again. I forget about this every time I don't see it in front of me.
842 is called Charlotte. And it has Renee and Wilson and Whit.
I really wish that this was in the normal show. Wait, is Wilson only...
Yes. No, he's been in the albums. He showed up in the albums.
When?
His first episode and his second episode.
I couldn't remember if that actually was.
Yes.
I really wish Charlotte was in the main show and not just in the OAC. So
I think apart from There and Back Again, all of his episodes so far have been in albums.
Okay. So this one has Renee, Wilson, and Whit. And I really wish it wasn't Renee, it was Connie or Eugene. So it's someone like we have a strong emotional connection to, hearing about Charlotte, because this is like something that's very important to Whit.
And clearly Connie and Eugene don't know about Charlotte, like, at all.
Yeah. So
based on the end of...
Well, Eugene might know. And you just never told Connie.
Oh, Connie. It's just like when you didn't know your mom was dead.
Why did you do that?
Because I told you, Victoria, when life expectancy happens, I said I will never be able to make another Connie is the last to know things joke without thinking of this episode. And I wasn't kidding. So, what's that episode called? Where Wilson first appears and they're talking about Connie and, and Jules.
Old friends, something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No friend like an old friend.
Yeah, that.
How
dare you?
I'm so bad at remembering episode titles these days.
How dare you make that joke?
I made a promise. Yeah, I totally agree. You went into this on, like, the first time we recorded it, and I was like, you're right, I haven't really thought about it much, but there's been, like, so much of Renee's role on the show.
I already told you, like, the last episode we did with Renee was the historical one, and I said specifically, I worded it badly. I used sexy lamp, and that was, like, not
yeah.
I couldn't come up with a better way to say it. Basically, I want Renee to be the person giving the lesson when she's in an episode. I don't want her to be the primary focus. For once, I don't want her to learn a lesson. I want her to teach a lesson to someone who needs to learn something. Or for her to be a side character that just, like, has one or two lines just to acknowledge, like, hey, I exist. I'm just not someone who's, like, basically a chair that you can just exposit to. I think exposit's a word.
Yes.
Because that's pretty much all she's been so far.
Except you did say you wanted her to be the lamp, is what you said last time.
I know. But I forgot what sexy lamp means. I still can't. I can't remember right now either.
It's like, if your female character is so useless that you can replace her with a sexy lamp and it wouldn't affect the story, then it's bad.
Okay, then she is a sexy lamp.
No, but you were saying you want her because you're like, she's always learning lessons. No, I want her to just be there. I want her to just be there and not do anything. Okay. Is what you said. Anyways.
Wait, no, that's not what You know that's not what I meant, though.
No, but that is what you said.
Yeah, but I forgot what the word meant. I'm just not going to use that phrase anymore.
You didn't use the phrase. I brought it up.
Yeah, you used.
It's
your fault.
You described it perfectly. Like, you're like, I just want her to be a lamp. It's like...
Yeah, by that, I mean, she's there and you can talk to her, but if she was a lamp, the thing is, she wouldn't be the main person in that episode. It would be someone who can talk to her and hash things out with, so she wouldn't really be a lamp at all. Or she'd just have 1 or 2 lines just to say, like, oh, here's your Sunday, or something like that. And I could be like, hey, Renee was in an episode where she wasn't the primary focus, and she wasn't being exposited to the entire time, and I can actually feel like she belongs in Odyssey, and not like they lock her in that stupid closet every single episode she's not in. I can feel like she actually has a presence in this world, and the way things are written now, she only appears in episodes where she's the main focus, or like one of 2 main focuses, and I feel like she doesn't belong, and she's super out of place, and I'm not going to get out of that mindset until they actually do something with her that they have not done so far. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I think the thing I specifically connected...
Like, even Connie and Eugene taught lessons to people before they became Christians. Eugene didn't become a Christian until Alma 25. He was teaching lessons.
That's so long.
He was like sneezing lessons onto people. So like,
which is not good in a food establishment.
I don't care. Do something with Renee, please.
The thing that you brought up about Renee being in this episode the first time we did this that I thought was really good was pointing out how we've had a lot of like Whit talking about his past and all these emotional things that we know that Connie and Eugene don't know about. And I feel like it would make more sense for them to be the one that he's telling these things. Like, it feels weird that, like, Whit is, like, oversharing his life to
like,
Renee.
Something that's so personal, he's never shared it with
Renee
anyone.
Before Connie and Eugene.
And he tells it to a stranger.
Yeah, like, all the stuff that happened in Vietnam, and then telling all of this stuff too that Connie and Eugene don't know about, but he's telling it to Renee. Like, that's really weird.
That like makes no.
It's weird to have like, Renee as
oversharing to strangers, but
like,
this is different. This is like a whole new level of that.
Yes. Oh, believe me, I understand, but this is different because this isn't the internet.
I meet someone new and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't read that because it makes me cry to sleep every night, and they're like, I'm super uncomfortable. Or like, yeah, I was totally bullied in school and that made me like really messed up and an introvert for life, and they're like, okay,
cool, here's your change.
Yeah, pretty much. That's me.
Big mood.
That's why I have no friends. I'm kidding. I have lots of good friends for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird how Renee is like this catalyst of just like receiving emotional burden from
like,
Whit.
I don't know about you, but I don't like it.
Because that's not a good role for a character to play in and of itself.
Yeah, and I also feel like every episode
and
Renee's
I like
in,
Renee. So.
She's like, because she's the center of it, that means she's the person who has the problem. And to me, that just kind of paints her as like weak in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't have any appearances where she's like triumphing and able to help someone else.
Yeah,
it's always like she's going through all these
in Angels
issues.
and Horsehairs, you know, she kind of has that, and I guess she sort of does too. She
sort of triumphs, but like she like has to go through all this PTSD stuff.
In the Forgiveness one about her dog and her aunt,
she's still learning the lesson in that one though.
Yeah, but she also teaches her aunt the lesson of forgetting, being like, I forgive you.
Yeah, but I want one where she's like
I
not
still
learning
do agree with you. Like, it portrays her like she's never one who has experience that she's able to give.
I feel like I'm not going to be able to like Renee completely until this happens, which could seem like super petty on my part, but guess what? I don't care.
Episode 843. Another 2 more episodes down.
Oh no, this one.
843. Divided We Fall.
And this one has Buck and Eugene. It makes me so scared.
Y'all, this is an ominous title and pairing of characters.
Maybe it's like they go on an imagination station together, like adventure, and it's about the Tower of Babel being destroyed, and it's talking about the walls, and the relationship strengthens and doesn't suffer.
And they love each other.
They love each other so much.
Man. The only thing that comforts me is that this isn't in an album, so they can't do anything too drastically horrible in it.
Yeah, but they're also doing Charlotte outside.
We have, like, I would say, because I feel like Buck right now is basically...
they can't do anything character.
Buck and Jules are the main, like, arcs happening on this show right now, so Buck and Eugene's relationship is protected with pretty solid plot armor.
Plot armor, yeah. I feel like anything that happens will be resolved by the end of the episode.
But it's still ominous.
You might get, like, very, very minor character advances.
Yeah, because it's like
nothing like, oh, I'm gonna become a Christian. It's only gonna happen in the OAC because screw you guys. That'd be the worst.
That would be bad. It's like Kathy said.
Although I guess they kind of did that with Lawrence in the Clubhouse magazine.
That doesn't even count, though.
I've never read that story where he becomes... Wait,
or is that who you meant?
No, that happens with Lawrence. I didn't know that happened with Nick.
No, that happened... That wasn't in Clubhouse. This happened to Nick in Clubhouse. It happened to Lawrence in the original version of Pilgrim's Progress that was then rewritten.
Okay, so there's just, like, nothing anywhere, and Lawrence becomes a Christian out of the blue.
Yes. Behind the scenes.
Good to know.
Nick is the one that happened in a Clubhouse story. Which was not even its own Clubhouse story. It was like... It was just like a retelling of Leap of Faith, I believe. Except they just added that into the Clubhouse version. If I recall correctly. Kathy did point out in our interview with her, though, that, like, because Buck has, like, this, you know, this amount of development happening
in, like, the Kathy interview.
With, like, every episode with Buck, and so it's like, okay, we need to have some episodes with Buck, and yes, there's always going to be some development. We can't hoard them all for broadcast episodes. Some of them have to go in the AIOC, so there may be some development in there, just because it's like, there's so much Buck development, I just can't hold it all.
It's like when you stumble and thousands of pictures fall out of your
Buck
jacket.
fall out of my pocket, yeah.
Except for me, it's Wellington. And people are like, why do you have these? And then I crawl back into the garbage that's full of my Wellington pictures. And I'm like, leave me alone.
Your paper mache garbage can is made out of J. Is made out of J pictures.
Could you imagine, like, if they... When you said paper mache, I thought the scary, like, yacht versions of the characters. And I thought you were going to say, I make a scary Wellington outfit. That'd be so funny.
8:44. Drake and the Time That Time Forgot.
I am excited for this one, but also kind of weary. This one has Wooten and Drake in it, mentioned.
Obviously. Technically, the description said Woots, not Wooten, but, you know.
Yeah, same thing. But, so I'm kind of worried about this one because Captain Absolutely, his first episode, which, it's not 3-in-1.
It's the Truth Be Told.
Yeah, Truth Be Told. I love that episode, like, so much. And then his next one, which is, like, 3-in-1, I also think is, like, really, really good, but not as good. And then we have Wooten's Broken Pencil Show, which is, like, it's okay when it comes to the story about him, but it's not, like, anything to really boast about. That episode's, like, super weird, though, but it, like, relishes in that, and I admire that.
That is the point, except that's not the point. But there is a point. The point is that it has a point.
I actually listened in that episode, so I don't know why
it says. The point is the point.
Yeah. And then it has, like, 3 question marks on the back
on the
of the album.
And
you're
theme.
like, why is this here? And then Devin, last time, oh, I get it. You deleted the episode on purpose, so no one would know about your mistake.
It's true, you found me out.
So last time I said, like, and then in the live show, Devin's like, there's that scene with the giant duck, and I said, no, that was Power Boy. That was a completely different live show. Captain Absolutely did not exist back then, and you're like, oh, you're right.
Thanks for putting me on blast, Victoria.
Now that, well, you did it to me on Tumblr earlier today, so...
That wasn't calling you out on a mistake. That was calling you out on being a bully to me constantly for my entire life.
You bullied me by pointing out that I was a bully. Anyway, We're talking about me acknowledging Devin's color blindness.
Acknowledging?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not that bad. Admittedly, I'm not that good, but I'm not that bad.
The thing is, I just stopped caring eventually. I don't care if I don't know what color things are.
Plus, yeah, anyway, that's not related to this at all. So when he was in our favorite live show, whatever it's called.
Push the red button.
Push the red button.
Making a lot of Michael faces today.
Everyone does when they're good enough. I don't know what that means.
Go on.
Anyway, that episode is not well, to put it lightly.
So that is an accurate depiction.
And I really don't like Captain Absolutely in that one. And I feel like his episodes just, like, started out so good and then just majorly deteriorated.
You think that's bad?
Over time.
You should read the comic series.
Captain Absolutely?
Yes.
Are you saying, like, in show, or do they actually make...
Like, the actual, like, the little comic page bits that they would, like, put up on the OAC.
Wait, they
that were in
actually
Clubhouse.
make Captain Absolutely things?
Oh, yeah, it's so bad!
Oh, man.
Because each story is only 1 page long.
Yikes.
You think you've seen shallow, quickly resolved writing?
I don't want to see it.
You think you've seen quickly
Plus, I thought the characters got really stupid as time went on. And it's always confused me sometimes when it's just like, I'm stuck in this voice, or like, I can do all these voices super well, and they never explain why. He just has this unsung talent. But it's only because he's just Harnell, and otherwise they'd never do
Anyways, Drake in the Time the Time Forgot.
So, what the heck?
I assume that's to both of us, because my phone buzzed.
Vibrate. So, I really, as we know, and we've said in this episode so far, we really love Drake the Cosmic Copper, and I'm really worried that, like, this episode might not be as good as the last one was.
The title is the thing I'd like to talk about here.
Time travel. No one ever does time travel well. Is that a thing you've noticed? Like, no one ever does?
I wouldn't say no one.
Okay, almost no one.
There are definitely...
Okay, better. I'll rephrase it. It is very difficult to do time travel well.
I will grant you that.
Without paradoxes everywhere. Upon rewatching Back to the Future, if you've ever watched a lot of Doctor Who, you're like, that shouldn't work that way once you get to the third one.
Yeah, it's a little messy, but that was the 80s, so I'll forgive them.
But, like, they're such good movies, so I gotta forgive them. But still, I will acknowledge it. Anyway, even with, like, the last couple minutes of Drake, like, the first one, those were super messy. With, like, everyone,
the
like...
The party. That's, like, the last 60 seconds.
Let me input my opinion. And I'm like, no, thank you. And then I just end the episode early.
So the title here, I don't think it's time travel.
I think it'll be, time travel? I'm hoping... I'd like that, actually. I'm hoping not a Groundhog Day kind of thing, because the show's already done that twice. So
yeah.
We don't have to do it again.
It's interesting, because when I read this title, I was like, there's 2 ways you can interpret it. You could either be as... the time that time forgot, as in, like, Drake and that, like, episode when time itself forgot, when time was forgetful, or it could also be, like, Drake and the period of time that was forgotten by time, like Drake and the period lost to time.
I have an idea.
Which is probably the latter. The first one's kind of a weird way, but it is, both are technically correct ways to interpret that title.
You know how, like, Drake's people and him didn't know anything about Christianity?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's, like, building off of that, and he's learning more things and stuff. Because, like, no one understood, like, maybe that was, like, around there at one point, but everyone forgot about it. So now it's, like, delving into that a little bit more.
Like, so there was some sort of mass memory wipe in the
No,
past?
no, just, like, it kind of died out.
Oh, okay.
On that specific planet.
I feel like probably not.
Maybe not, but it would, like, tie into the last episode that Drake did.
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, but
probably
I
not.
Okay.
Probably wrong. I want time travel. Anyway, next episode.
You know, do you ever think about how, like, the third episode, the third story of the Last Chance Detectives, which is, like, part of the AIO universe,
I really like that one, actually.
Suggests
I think that's the second one, though.
I thought it was the third one. The Australian that suggests
no, that's
that...
the first one.
No.
Yeah.
No, the third one suggests that time/space travel, like teleportation and temporal travel, may have been invented in the Odyssey universe.
No, that's not time travel or anything.
Are you thinking of the right one?
Yeah, that's the one with Jason in it.
No, it's not. It's the one about the plane and the lab that gets raided for, like, their teleportation device. That's why I'm saying you're thinking of the wrong one.
I thought you were talking about the one with Jason, which is the first one.
No.
I wish there were more of those, because it ends on a cliffhanger, and I like them.
Okay. 8:45, Mean and Green.
This one's about the Grinch.
Yes. Christmas in August. Yes, August.
So it has Connie, Tiffany, I'm assuming, the jewelry
obviously,
company,
yes.
And Valerie and Jules, and it's about how Valerie's become a jewelry thief, stealing Tiffany's jewels and merch. Because that's what jewelry is, merch.
It
if
is.
You own it.
Yeah.
And she's donning a Grinch disguise. So
the
no
most
one
fashionable
will
trend of
her.
August 2018.
If someone was parading around an Odyssey dressed like the Grinch and robbing from places, would you ever guess it was Valerie?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. These are like, our predictions last time were so logical, and this time they're so weird.
That's what we get from injecting character names into the mix. That's what makes it fun again.
No, I'm talking about our first recording.
That too.
Where we had character names.
Okay, my first thought was like Mean Girls, because I mean it's like Valerie, Jules. I'm glad they're bringing Valerie back.
I want a Mean Girls. Valerie is pure up evil. We learned that last time.
Yeah, I like her.
She's even more evil in Kidsborough. I'm interested in seeing what they're gonna do. She is so evil.
I'm guessing Tiffany is some new, like, sidekick for Valerie. She's a new, like, rich, popular girl moves to town. She's gonna get all up in Jules' character niche, except she's gonna be willing to work with Valerie.
Mean Girls episode of Odyssey so bad. It's such a funny movie.
Damien,
I remember when we first watched that, and the bus comes at the end, and I, like, yelled because I didn't see that coming. I watched Mean Girls for the first time, like, last year.
What will the Damien analog say instead of "I'm too gay to function," given that it's Odyssey and we're not allowed to say gay?
I'm too in a hospital because of some choices I made at some point in my life, and now I don't know how my friends or family associate with me to function.
That got really real.
I'm sorry. I was, like, quoting that one.
I know.
I'm sorry.
But yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was honest. No.
I'm sorry.
Paul McCusker can apologize.
I feel bad now. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that was a solid call out on Paul being a bad tropey writer in The Ties That Bind. Episode 846. Meta's Match. This is, not going to forget this time. This is...
Devin forgot what this was about last time.
Because for some reason, I was like...
the Wit dating
I was
episode?
like, Met His Match is a totally different episode than Met His Match. This is Wit's Women.
Devin thought this one was, like, about, like, Survivor and fire starting or something like that, and they were, like, in a contest. I can't remember.
I knew that Met His Match was an upcoming episode, but for some reason I read the title differently in my brain and thought it was something different. Met His Match is the one which Kathy still referred to in our interview as Wit's Women, which is a hilarious title funny. To me. It makes me think of Charlie's Angels. We were talking
about last time, like...
Which is funny because Charlie's Angels is what...
So loud.
It's funny because Charlie's Angels is what Totally Spies is based on.
And Connie's in it.
Exactly. And Connie would be one of Wit's women if it was like a spy type thing.
Yeah.
Not a romantic
Connie
thing, obviously.
Alex for the last half of Totally Spies.
And Jerry is played by Jess Arnell.
So, yeah. I always thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I remember last time I asked, like, why isn't Connie's name in the Wit's Woman thing? And we tried to come up with, like, Connie's something, and we couldn't, so we went with
so Met His Match, we already know, Penny, Olivia, Connie, and Whit. This is the episode where Penny and Olivia are trying to set up dates for Connie and for Whit. So. And
we know that a little character is gonna be coming back to the show. I'm so excited for it. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm so excited. Okay. New Olivia.
Nope. 847, The Last Straw. Connie,
I skipped one,
Olivia.
We've been doing this for so long.
Connie, Olivia, and Camilla. As I said last time, I think, there is a freak October snowstorm. Everyone is trapped inside of Wits End. Connie, Olivia, and Camilla are buried in this horrific snow-in. And then they realize, as they try, just like in Black Clouds, they're like, oh, we need to drink all of the milkshakes before they melt. And then they realized there's only one straw left.
I feel like I made that joke.
I thought I made that joke.
I can't remember. Well, we
we'll
can't.
Never know.
I was going to say we have to check, but we can't.
We'll never know.
People are watching this and are like, please get over the fact that you lost your recording. But I don't want to.
I'll take it to my grave. Yeah, The Last Straw, I assume it's about forgiveness. You know, forgive your sister 70 times 7 times.
I feel like it's going to be a lot like the forgiveness episode that Camilla was in.
Yeah, and Olivia. I assume Olivia will be like, oh, that's the last straw. I can't forgive you again.
And Connie will be like, learn your lessons.
Forgive her 70 times 7 times.
Why can't I be Renee in this episode?
Yeah, I think that's about it. This seems pretty...
848, the new Olivia, VP Morris.
Vice Principal Morris.
Oh, right, yeah. I did that last time, too.
And Olivia.
Vice Principal Morris turns out to be a mad scientist who clones Olivia.
Do you know what Morris is only one letter off from?
Mori.
So, through his intricate string pulling, behind scenes, off mic, Maury has already become the vice principal of the school. His power is growing so quickly.
And he took on the very,
he didn't become principal because he's like, you know, you have to shoot for second place. It's like Dash at the end of The Incredibles.
Yeah.
You can't show your hand too hard.
Yeah. So, he's wearing a very clever, evil moustache.
Yes, which is, he's just very short kid with a mustache, and they're like, yes.
Looks exactly the same.
Good morning.
No one can and he's like, no one will figure out my secret identity. I added an S to the end of my name.
It's like, literally, he was typing Maury, but his fingers slipped diagonally from the E to the S.
And then he accidentally hit the enter button at the same time. He's like, oh no, but no one noticed. Not even his genius sister. And... he's going to take over the world one day.
Yeah, so that's what that episode about. I assume Olivia's trying to remake herself, you know.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Walkworthy, 849. This one is a sequel to...
Walk This Way.
Walk This Way.
Yeah.
But it has Buddy and Jay in it, so I think it's going to be...
And Mr. Handelman.
And Mr. Handelman, who's actually going to be played by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Hey kids, I'm Mr. Handelman!
That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger sounds like.
Yeah, so that's my Arnold impersonation.
Have you ever seen that deleted scene from Transformers 3, where he has a country accent?
No, let's go.
I'm going to show it to you after.
Okay. After.
So this one is about Mr. Universe contest, and it's Buddy versus Jay. And
the young Mr. Odyssey modeling contest, actually.
Mr. Handelman is actually not the judge. He's another one of the contestants, and he's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. He's a side character. Plot twist, he actually wins, because he's the only one who can understand the true meaning of friendship.
That makes sense.
These are the worst predictions ever. All of them are just
so
trolling.
Jay's
back.
Jay is in this episode.
That means either he's coming back completely, or he's visiting from New Zealand. Maybe he just has one phone call.
Or this episode takes place in New Zealand.
Oh, that too.
Buddy and Mr. Handelman go and visit Jay, or Mr. Handelman is from...
Mr. Handelman sounds like the name of a character from the Adventure Zone.
I know, it's funny because obviously it's like Mr. Handelman, but I just like saying Mr. Handelman.
Everyone whose last name is Handelman and they're watching this, they're like, that's not funny.
It's true, because there's probably, statistically speaking, there's probably several people watching this episode.
Or there's some people, and they're like,
Handelman.
Actually, it is pronounced Handelman.
Who knows? It could be like Boyland.
Boyland.
Good old Boyland.
Good old Boyland. It's Boyland. Oh,
Boyland. Boyland. Wonderful girl in Toyland. Walkworthy. My guess, just based on the title, would be like, it's about people feeling like worthy of a Christian walk, like being worthy of having faith and being a Christian and stuff.
I like Buddy now. Devin does not like Buddy still. I feel like Buddy's imagination and Jay's imagination could be a very dangerous combination.
It's like a matter-antimatter annihilation.
Yeah. Can you imagine what Jay would be portrayed as in Buddy's different fantasies? I feel like that'd just go completely honestly. Insane. And Whit Hertford would get to do all these crazy voices. There has to be one. I just need one where Jay is actually Elvis. Like, full-on Elvis.
It's probably not going to take long for Jay to put that together. Or for Buddy to put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so predictions. Those are our predictions. 8:38 to 8:49. Let's read out the titles one last time. So from 8:38 to 8:49, Rewinding the Big Picture.
Oh, right. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Failing to the Finish Line.
Beyond Repair.
BTV Idolatry.
Charlotte.
Divided We Fall.
Drake and the Time That Time Forgot.
Mean and Green.
Met His Match.
Last Straw.
The New Olivia.
Walkworthy. We didn't talk about America when we talked about BTV.
No, we didn't this time.
Do you want to touch on that or no?
I don't think so. I mean, that wasn't a legitimate prediction, really.
Okay. Anyway, next time on the Adventures.
It's also not just America, you know.
Yeah, I know.
We can only we need to maintain a certain ratio in which we criticize Canada proportionately to the U.S. To be fair,
people are gonna listen. They're like, "What are you talking about now?"
And both countries are pretty equally, I think, guilty of patriotic idolatry. But we don't need to rehash that whole discussion.
The discussion that time forgot.
Yes. That's what 844 is going to be about.
It's going to be our missing podcast, and we're going to be like, how did you get this?
It's going to be like the This Is Not a Sequel episode of Night Vale.
So next time, we are going to be doing top 10 adaptations. So
I'm excited about this one. It's a Victoria episode.
It's going to be a me episode, and lots of people aren't going to watch because of that. No, I'm kidding.
It's good.
Hopefully.
See, this episode is going to stand apart because for once it's going to be written by someone who actually has an inkling of an idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, this one's going to be written by me, which will be first episode in the show that's been completely written by me.
Maybe.
Yeah, it will be. There have been episodes I helped work right, but this will be my episode. This one's my baby. So this one is looking at adaptations that Odyssey has done, but by that we don't mean like TV or movie or something like that.
Well, no, it can be that, but it can't. It's not.
No, I mean it's not like Odyssey going to its TV show format. It's Odyssey taking a story that already exists, like Count of Monte Cristo, and then adapting it into an episode like BTV Revenge.
And it also is not counting parodies of TV shows where it's like, oh, we're adapting like the formula, like when we parody Star Trek or Rescue 911 or Lassie or NYPD or CSI or a game show or stuff, because those aren't adapting the plot of a story. Those are adapting like the formula from a show.
Pilgrim's Progress.
Yes, or A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Things like that, where it's like the actual plot of the story is being retold on Odyssey.
Yeah.
Whether it's like kind of put a tweak on it or whether they're doing a pretty straight telling of it.
And what was that one that you got rid of? Because I said we shouldn't do that one, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll get rid of it.
I mean, there was a couple.
Yeah, but what was...
We got rid of Day in the Life.
Yeah, Day in the Life. That was one Devin thought about suggesting, but...
it was really more references than an adaptation of The Night Travelers.
So it's not an adaptation.
I also... I never realized until I was making this list that A Day in the Life came out a month before The Night Travelers came out. Which means this wasn't... And I pointed this out to Victoria, and apparently she's forgotten about it.
I always thought it was an ad for The Night Travelers, because it is.
An ad? You thought they were making fun of it to advertise it?
Oh, wait, no, I was thinking of Dobson Comes to Town.
No, A Day in the Life comes out, which I'd always kind of assumed, like, oh, The Night Travelers came out, and then the team realized, like, oh, this is kind of silly, there's mixed reception, you know what, we should make sort of a parody thing of it. No, this came out before The Night Travelers, which means they wrote it.
They knew what
they wrote it way in advance. They wrote it way while Night Travelers would have been in early production.
What they were doing with
which
the
means,
TV show.
Exactly. Well, they weren't the ones making it, though.
Yeah.
But that they looked at it and they were like, oh, we need to make fun of this. This wasn't like, oh, people think this is silly, let's make a little joke about it. They're like, we, in and of ourselves, by ourselves, are fully acknowledging we need to make fun of this.
And they were like, oh, this is funny. And
yeah,
then they
and that's
watched
the other
TV
funny part.
show episode and they're like, oh, I get it
That's
now.
the funny part, is that people would have heard A Day in the Life, and then a month later they saw The Night Travelers.
And then they re-listened to The Day in the Life, and they're like, I was warned and I didn't realize.
We saw the signs. We didn't know it was coming.
It was foreseen. We didn't.
It was foresawn.
It was foresawn. Anyway.
You have ears that you do not hear and eyes that you do not see.
You have been warned and you did not realize. Anyway.
Anyway, so yeah, we're doing that next time. Top 10 adaptations. It's going to be cool. Because Victoria is like a literature person, so...
That's me.
Yeah. It'll be neat. So, thank you until next time. Thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. This has been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Milsner.
And I'm Victoria Grace. I'm not telling you my middle name, Francis.
Your other middle name?
Guess what it is. No one's ever guessed correctly, except for those people that have.
And you've been watching the...
Yep, that. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.